I just don't, I wanted you to know I'm not possessed by the devil, although it looks like I've got like two sets of glasses on. I don't understand where the reflection's coming from. I can't figure it out. I'm gonna try the different glasses and see if they make a difference.
Looks like stress to me.
Well, it looked like I watched this stupid soap opera, and there's a woman who's the devil's taking her over. So that's what it looked like to the eye. No, it's not. This is worse.
The devil made you do it.
Right. I'm going to try a different angle, but it's not making it any better or worse. It's just the same thing. So see, we've got everybody here. Oh, everybody's here. Good. All right, we've got like,
I'm not on the screen yet.
oh, I can see your name.
I'm showing as a panelist, I think.
Yep, you should be.
Not yet.
Because we can see your name on there. We just can't see you. Do you have your video checked? Clicked on?
Hang on. No. No.
Can I sit down?
Yep.
The host disabled participant screen showing. Do you hear us?
Yep, we can hear you.
Well, according to the computer, it says the host has disabled the participant screen sharing.
Okay, so Justin's looking at that. He's the host. I'm not smart enough to know how to do that. So
Screen sharing is when I can see what's on your computer. That'd be like if you had a document up.
Well, we don't.
there's nothing on the video where you can click on where it says video. Oh, there you go.
There you are.
We can see you guys. Nice to see you, Karen.
Yeah, well, I just had to see, he's on my computer tonight, so it's different for him.
Okay, great, good. All righty. It's 6:01. And so I want to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call. And we will start off with Mr. Beaupre,
Here.
Mr. Corson,
Here.
Ms. Beleska,
Here.
Mr. Dyer. I can't hear you, Mark.
Here.
Okay. Ms. Damon is here. Ms. Ofant
Here.
and Mr. Poria.
Here.
Good. Okay, so we've got through number one. All right, so the next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. If there's someone in the, a participant who would like to, an attendee who would like to bring something up that's not on the agenda, would you raise your hand and Justin will bring you in? All right, I'm looking and I don't see anything. I don't see anybody. Okay, so moving on. If somebody wants to say something later in the meeting and we can fit it in, we'll do that. All right, the town administrator's report. Mr. Poria.
There we go. So in my my memo to you folks, I included an update from Jason Glant of Wright Pierce. I'm sure you've read that. I mentioned that the old plow truck was returned to the island. It's down at the town yard right now. Mainly brought that back. So if we in fact did have a snow event or something like that, that we would have something on standby in the event that that we have snow before the new truck arrives. As I mentioned, I have created a list of all the DPW equipment, including my recommendation of what to do with that, and I will bring that to you during your initial budget discussion, which should start either in December or January. I officially applied for the town ARPA funds, and yesterday we received the half of the money, 18,000 and some change. So I've set up a general ledger account for that and deposited it into the town account. The dredging, moving on to the dredging project. Yep. Go
Justin,
ahead.
before you go on, can you, I know it's a moving target on how you can use that money, but as of right now, what is the, what's the criteria?
So these funds are going to be loosely monitored by the Department of Treasury. So MMA right now, if you read the language, it's very restrictive of what we could do with it. And initially, a lot of the small communities, we were, as managers and as MMA, we were all struggling to figure out how we would actually use this money. MMA's position is, and after talking to other municipal leagues, that we can construe a lot of the language that's in these, that restricts the use of these funds. We can sort of stretch what those mean. So there may be more opportunities, and I encourage anybody, if you, I'm not sure how many of you are getting the emails from MMA, from Neil Goldberg. He's their legislative analyst. He's been putting on workshops, and he's been sort of explaining how we can stretch the definitions to try to make these funds work for smaller communities. The bill was originally written for large counties, which is how most of the country operates, is through county government. So that's why, like, Cumberland County has like 50 some odd $1 million at their disposal, compared to our 30,000. So it talks a lot about infrastructure, but it mostly talks about water, sewer infrastructure, stormwater. These are all things we don't have. And what I mean, not stormwater is in, there's no storms on Chebegon, but we don't have a stormwater infrastructure. We don't have public sewers that carry stormwater. So originally we thought those were going to be some of the big limitations, but it sounds like terms like they're interpreting using stormwater in a lot more liberal way than I think most of the managers in MMA originally thought. But it looks like basically we just have to stand by and see where everybody's going to move with this thing. And MMA is just cautioning smaller communities to not really jump the gun. And there's plenty of time. We don't have to do anything with this money until 2026. So they're just encouraging everybody to just kind of take a deep breath, think about holistically what the community might want to do with it. And while it's sitting there, we are allowed to do anything we want with the interest. The interest is town money. So we can move that to any project. It doesn't even have to fit the criteria of the ARPA law. So it's not a lot in our case, but I think we can just pause and kind of take our time to really think about what the needs of the community is and what the best use of this money will be moving forward.
Thank you, Justin.
Justin, just as you mentioned stormwater, sounds a lot like drainage projects to me.
That is what MMA is sort of thinking now. They're thinking that we can stretch the language of the stormwater system improvements. And Neil Goldberg has sort of indicated at the last meeting I went to that he was at that may in fact be the case, that we may be able to use that for culverts, things like that we can, with some straight face say that we're trying to do something about stormwater in a responsible way. Yep.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
You were at dredging. I interrupted you. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So the dredging project, it still seems to be moving along. We were contacted by them at first to ask if we wanted to include the removal of the moorings that are in the project area into the federal project. And I initially said that I thought that would be easier than for us to go out. And then that person from Army Corps was quickly corrected by a superior and said that those cannot be included unless they're bid out separately, and it's cumbersome. So in hindsight, I think we'll just take care of that on our own. So we'll have to get a contractor to move some of those. I believe the two biggest ones that will definitely need a contractor to move will be the ones that that the CTC uses for the old ferry and the barge, because those are very large and I don't think they've been moved in many, many years. So we'll have to get somebody that's got equipment that can move those. My understanding is those are in the project area. Well, when I met with Lenny from CMP, I'm not sure if you want to, do you want me to go through this, Bo, or would you like to speak to it?
No, that's fine. Like,
Okay.
what you wrote down is pretty well what it is anyway.
Okay. So we met with Lenny from CMP, and it looks like both at the corner of South Road and Chandler's Cove Road and Chandler's Cove Road and Casco Bay Landing Road, that we can move those poles that are very close to the intersection. When you're driving down those roads, it looks like there's plenty of room in the town right away and or in their corridor. And what I mean by that is obviously a lot of thought put into which poles get moved because of guide wires and things like that. It's not as simple as just moving it across the street. I learned, I didn't realize there's so much to it. But while they're doing all this, it looks like Lenny's intention is to take the opportunity to sort of upgrade the wires that are also running in this area to be covered wires that can hold more power. I guess a lot of some of the wiring out here was kind of designed for cottages back in the day, and now that people are making more and more, year-round homes with heat pumps and all kinds of electronics, that a lot of the wiring isn't large enough for what they need. So if they're going to do this work, it looks like they're going to make some upgrades while they're at it. So that was all good news. I don't know if there's anything that Bo wants to add to that
When do
discussion.
they think they might do that, Justin?
He said it would take a couple of months at least to get the engineering. They're going to have to bring their engineering department in to redesign everything. And then after that, it could be sometime. He was talking months, not necessarily years or even a year. I think that he thought he could have a lot of this done by spring. Is that correct, Bo? Is that what you got the impression? Maybe.
Well, I wouldn't say spring, but yeah, he didn't really give us a definite time. But the pole movements over at Caps Road could be done before we even do anything down there as far as ditching and stuff.
Yes. Good point.
And the stuff over at Chandler's probably can be done after the road's put in. Just wouldn't be very good.
So let's see. And then the last item was the quote that I sent you for the backhoe that we sent over to the mainland, that the transmission is gone, and to get a used transmission, which they have sight on one right now, but I told them there's no way we can act that fast. We don't have this kind of money in our budget for these types of large repairs. So depending how the board wants to deal with that, I gave you the information. I don't necessarily have a plan for it right now, other than if the board wanted to fix it, we would most certainly have to go to town meeting and ask to remove money out of the undesignated fund balance to pay for it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Anyone on the board? Jay? Oh, Jay, you're muted.
Any update on the emergency repair at the hook? Or the survey or the study that was going to be done?
Like I said, my last report, we were hoping to have something here in the next couple of weeks. Phyllis reached out to me, and I subsequently reached out to Barney, and he suggested late last week that he thought that he could have a draft of the initial findings sometime this week. And meaning late this week. So I haven't heard any more than that from what I heard last, I think it was last Friday. It may have been Monday, but I think it was last week.
Okay, you had everything else on the list. It wasn't there. That's why I asked.
Yep, thank you. Jen, did you have your hand up?
Justin, I was just wondering, with the Stone Wharf engineering study, did they indicate a time frame to expect the concept plans in the presentation? Did they give you any idea of when that might be?
No, what I got was what I forwarded to you. Originally, we had talked about, when we first started talking to them, they had asked for 6 months or so. So we're kind of coming up on that now. So I would hope that we would have something so that we could have it for discussion for the budget process.
Great.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board? Anyone in the, any attendees if you would like to ask Justin a question about anything he talked about, raise your hand and we'll bring you up.
I just had a quick question about,
Oh, sure.
sorry, we have 2 backhoes. One's broken. Does the other one work okay?
Yes, right now there doesn't seem, it's in working order. Yes.
Thanks, Jen. Bo?
The backhoe in question, is it the new one or the old one?
The new one.
Okay. Can we put it on the next agenda item to talk about?
Let's just add that to the, I've got a list going for the end of the meeting, so I'm going to put that on that list.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I guess there's no one of the questions. Let's keep on moving on. All right, to hear a presentation from the broadband committee and to act on setting a date for special town meeting or referendum. And so just before we get into the discussion, to clarify, tonight we're going to hear a report from the broadband committee, and there'll be an opportunity for the Board of Selectmen and the community to ask questions and to discuss and make comments. The Board of Selectmen will not be voting on supporting or rejecting the broadband proposal tonight. All we're going to be voting on is whether or not we ask Justin to draft a warrant. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's the only thing that is on the agenda, for the TA to draft a warrant for a special town meeting that could be held as early as November 20th, 2021. So if this passes, the board will vote on holding a town meeting to discuss broadband and several other topics at the October 20th meeting. So it's really a 2-step process. So today we're going to hear this, and Justin had some other items too that he will talk about at some point. So with no further ado, I would like to hear the report from the broadband committee. I'm not sure who the spokesperson is. Raise your hand if you're the person who's supposed to be giving this presentation. Michael Porter.
Okay, I'm back.
Michael, are there other members of your committee who should be elevated at this time, just so that we don't have to keep asking?
Okay.
You want the rest of your committee to be elevated?
I don't know who, I would like that. I don't know who if they're all here.
I can tell you, Richard Hackle is here.
Okay.
Let's see, I'm just trying to go through this list.
Gary
here.
O'Durda.
Hugh Kellum, Gary O'Durda,
Adam Kagan.
David Hill.
Adam Kagan's the only other member.
Yeah, I don't see Adam's name here. Does anybody else see it?
No,
If he comes on, we'll bring him up.
how about Aaron?
Aaron is not on here. Aaron Root, no, Aaron Julian?
Israel, Julian.
Yes, no, he's not on, he's not here. He could not be at this meeting. We're going to talk about that later. He sent in a letter of resignation and said he was unable to come tonight.
Okay, ready for me to go ahead?
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Well, I want to recognize the because they've all worked very hard on this project. And I think you know what I'm going to say, but I want to say first that there is one thing that's not in the report because it happened after the report had to be in, and that is that Aaron Julian resigned from the committee, apparently because he thinks the RFP was not conducted in a properly transparent manner. The rest of the committee and I don't think that's the case. I wanted to mention it. Donna's already has, but that's good. Oh, and Gary says that Adam will join us later, but he has a conflict at the early time of this meeting. Okay, a good internet connection is a basic utility nowadays, and our proposal is a really good deal for the island. It's quite different from the proposal that wasn't accepted 2 years ago, particularly because the construction and ongoing operation envision no further support costs to the taxpayers. The capital for the construction will come from grants and a bond that will be repaid by Axiom from the fees paid by subscribers. Axiom has also agreed to pay the $8,000, $10,000 required for insurance each year. And I know there are people who doubt their ability to do that in the long run, but they've been providing internet service in Machias and the nearby towns for a long time. They put in a similar system to ours on the Cranberry Isles and have been paying them for several years. And they've been paying the folks on Cliff Island for, I think it's 2 years now. I could be wrong about that. The system will be capable of blinding speeds, 1 gigabit, 1,000 megabits per second, but the basic service level is 50/50, equal speeds down and up, and costs $59.99 a month. But since summer folk are an important part of our community, we pushed hard for a good accommodation for them. What we ended up with is that they will pay $20 a month in the off season. And that's basically each subscriber's monthly share of the system cost. Subscribers will also need a router, of course, but you can rent those from Axiom for $7 a month, which will be an additional cost, or they can buy their own from Best Buy or Amazon or wherever. They're not expensive. Town will own the fiber and the connection equipment at each subscriber's house. The thing has a similar function to a modem, converts the light to electrical energy signals. And that has two advantages. One, as a town, we won't have to pay the exorbitant pole rental costs. And second is that Axiom doesn't perform the way we contracted them to, we can fire them, contract with a different operator. Once the system's up and running, Axiom will do all the maintenance. They've agreed to keep a bucket truck on the island and have committed to having an on-island repair person, even after Beverly retires. They're talking about a 24-hour maximum turnaround for problems. I suppose that would be longer if it was a storm like that one we had a few years back that had trees down on every road and it was a total mess, but anyway. Timeline, the construction time is about 12 to 14 months after a grant award. Most of this time is dealing with pole licensing. We expect, but we're not sure, a grant application window to open in late November. The target for awarding those grants is February to March, so the best we can hope for is an operating system in mid-2023. That's a long time away, but if we don't get in on this window, even that possibility is gone. With the uncertainty in Washington, we have no idea when more funding is going to be available. To even apply, we need the town's commitment of funds. So we need bonding authority to be approved at a town meeting in the very near future. The expected bond amount, you've seen it in your report, but still is $750,000 to $850,000. But just to be safe, we're asking the community for bonding authority capped at $975,000. And the committee respectfully requests the select board to schedule a town meeting with that in the warrant in the very near future. That's all I want to say by way of introduction. I guess the next step is people ask questions. Donna, is that about it?
Yes, yeah, and please go through the chair, raise your hand, and if we're first going to start with the Board of Selectmen. So are there members of the Board of Selectmen who would like to ask a question or make a comment? You're gonna get a second chance at it if you're on the board. You'll have the last say and last questions, just to let you know the way I've set this up. Mark,
Michael, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the last time that you spoke to us in September, you used a number of having a goal of 2 to 250 subscribers to make this viable for the bond payment situation. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, but I need to add that Axiom has guaranteed the payment of the bond regardless of the number of subscribers. If the number gets down, is only around 200,
Yeah,
they're going to start feeling they have ulcers a little bit.
okay,
But they've guaranteed it nonetheless.
yeah. And I think I remember reading in here that the rate started around $60 a month and go up towards 90 to 100 maybe.
That's right. It's $60 for a basic system, which is much faster than we have now. Okay, 50 both ways. If you want to go to 100, twice the speed, it's $80 basically, and then it's 110 if you want to go to 500.
Yeah,
That's what they're proposing. It's not cast in stone, but we haven't tried to negotiate those down a lot.
okay.
Some people.
And forgive me for this last question. I probably could have asked Mark Roulette this question, but will they have to secure more licensing to put more infrastructure on the Central Maine Power whole grid system?
I think my understanding, and really Mark is the person to ask that question.
and Mark, just to let you know, Mark has in the chat box, if we want to bring him up, he will answer
Yeah.
questions.
I'm just wondering how it works, that's all.
So Mark, would you like to hear from Mark Willett?
I can tell you some of it.
I mean,
Okay.
Justin can bring him up.
Okay.
It's up to you, Michael.
Okay, well, I think it'd be a good idea to bring him up because there'll probably be other questions that
Okay.
I can't answer. But basically, they do have to pay consolidated poll owners for something. There are certain costs that the town doesn't have to pay because it's a town.
Yeah.
Hi, Mark.
Mark. So
Hey,
Mark
good
Dyer,
afternoon.
do you need more information that Mike Willett might be able to give you?
Yeah, Mark, it's just a basic question, which may not mean too much at this point. But if this goes through and this infrastructure is allowed to be installed, will you need to get more licensing or rights, if you will, to hang more infrastructure on Central Maine Power's whole grid?
Yes, is the short answer. And
Okay.
that's the 6 to 8 month process that Michael alluded to that initially would have to be undertaken and is part of the overall cost of the projected cost for the whole project. That's included in that, with the caveat that you are municipally owned. If you are municipally owned, you could avoid a good portion of, potentially, because it's in statute, a good portion of the cost of the make ready. However, on the backside, once it's built, Axiom, what the town would hold the poll licenses that cost per poll per month, of which we've built into our expense model to pay for on behalf of the town.
Okay,
So then that would
Thank
be in perpetuity.
thank you very much.
Okay, is there another member of the Board of Selectmen who has a question they would like to ask a member of the broadband committee or Mark? All right, Seeing none right now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get another shot at this. I'm going to open up to the public, but I want to read a letter first that came. Jim Van Fleet asked me, he had family coming, and he called me today and asked me if I'd read this letter that he has written tonight. And he apologized for not being able to do it himself. Dear Select Board, I wanted to share with you a business perspective concerning the fiber proposal being discussed at Wednesday's meeting. More than anything else, I look at this utility as an important delivery mechanism for the next generation of healthcare industry. Telemedicine can be an ideal solution for Islanders. I like the idea of being in as much control of our own destiny as possible. And so even though I am generally inclined to look for private enterprise solutions, there are some programs that justify a public-private partnership, and I believe the community's access to the internet is one of those. As a community, we have more leverage to gain favorable contractual language that offers better, broader service. I also believe that community ownership will in some way allow us to accommodate those who cannot otherwise afford it. The fact that this current proposal comes with little or no likely impact on our real estate taxes makes it a very different proposal than the last time we visited this subject publicly. The timing of this proposal is critical because if we want to take advantage of a large chunk of public funding for community broadband for the underserved, then we must act quickly to place this matter on the agenda of a special town meeting in the very near future. This could lead to as much as $500,000 of grant and public monies because the money has been allocated by both state and federal government for infrastructure investments like this one. And happily, it's expected that a contractual agreement negotiated by the Broadband Committee has users who sign up voluntarily, paying for the rest of the project cost over time through monthly fees. Several folks have criticized the current provider, Axiom, for their level of service as one of our current internet providers. I believe, as do those folks who have personally worked on the high wires, that the multiple failures of the copper-based system are what Axiom has inherited. What is notable is that their excellent service has been delivered largely by island employees. Economically, this means the island money is reinvested back in the island. Some have wondered whether it is a sound business decision to deal with such a small company. I have spoken with the banker that Axiom has provided for reference and found that their credit history is good, that their future prospects strong. Some have suggested that they might be bought by another company. I would suggest that if they are so strong as to be a potential takeover target by another business in their industry, then we should applaud, since any successor company would be legally bound to honor the existing contracts, and because it would mean they are economically viable over the long haul. Good reasons to do business with them. Axiom has volunteered to provide copies to us of other communities' contracts for providing the same level of service, thereby ensuring that we are adopting the best parts of other communities' contractual successes. I believe the technical folks who claim that the level of fiber being specified for our job has a viable life expectancy well beyond the proposed 20-year amortization period of a town bond issue. Finally, I think it would be a good idea for our town to hire a technical consultant to ensure that what is built by Axiom has quality components and is done with a high standard of professional competency. For these reasons, I would encourage you to vote affirmatively to call a special town meeting and place the broadband initiative on the warrant for community yes or no vote. That was from Jim Van Fleet. Okay, so now I would like to open it up to, we have quite a few people, attendees here. And what you do is you raise your hand, and Justin, the man behind the cloth here, will let you in.
So the
You
first
see-
person is Gary would like to speak, and he's a member, he's on the panel. So if you want to
Oh,
recognize
okay.
him, Donna.
Okay, yeah. Yes, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Donna and the board. I would like to address the letter that was received today about the RFP process. And as a member of the committee, I feel strongly that the process was fair and appropriate. And Consolidated did not submit a proposal, but they were given the same opportunity to participate as everyone else. In fact, it was publicly posted and they were sent several emails asking about their participation. They were always free to submit their own plan for ownership, and that's exactly what Spectrum did. They submitted a plan where they would own it and not the town. The Consolidated chose not to do so. And there's an email string that's included in the addendum to the proposal. And one of the emails on August the 12th indicates that Michael sent an email to Consolidated offering them an extension to be able to submit a proposal. And they came back and said they would not be responding. So I think the process was fair. I think Consolidated was given an ample opportunity. And because of the time pressure, I would strongly encourage the board to be able to go ahead and schedule a meeting to discuss the issue at a town meeting. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else on the committee who would like to speak on the broadband committee? Okay, I don't see any hands. Are there any people in the audience who would like to speak? Suhail, oh yeah, now hands are going up. So Suhail and Lila were that's the first ones I saw. And the next one is
Can you
Chip.
hear me, Donna?
Yes.
Thank you to the Broadband Committee for all the work they've done. I think Suhail and I have read their report. We listened to their presentation last night, and they have really moved this process forward. I would like to underline that it is timely and important that the community have the opportunity to vote on this. It's also timely and important that we look at this proposal as a way to make sure that we don't evolve into a community of haves and have-nots with the internet. We are now at the precipice of that. There are people who are able to afford and have some kind of adequate internet. There are many who do not, whether it is from Consolidated or from Axiom. We already have the island divided into what I see as fiefdoms too. We do have some fiber optic here that goes to certain places and is being managed and owned by different companies. This is an opportunity to make sure that everyone in the community can have it dropped the highest quality of fiber, not just for now, but for the next generation, next 30 years, right at their doorstep, without the cost of the connections that will come and that already are extremely high. We were lured away from making a decision about this with promises of satellites and science fiction. There are some people on the island who can't afford and do have some satellite dishes. It is expensive and it does not work in many places. It is not a community solution. This is a community solution that has many benefits, especially for keeping young people and attracting young people to the island. I hope that you will all support an early opportunity for everyone in the town to vote on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. Chip Emery's next.
Unmute. Thank you. I want to thank the broadband for the committee for their hard work. I very much support and second Jim Van Fleet's letter and also Lila's statement about young families, which I think is so critical to the future of keeping Shebig and in the nature that it is now. Lastly, from the webinars that I've attended, various ones with Island Institute and different communities when they've had those, it sounds like other communities have shovel-ready projects ready and they're ahead of us. And we need to not delay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. All right, let's see. Anyone else? This is your opportunity to ask questions or make your thoughts be known. All right, I don't see any more hands. Anyone else on the committee? Michael?
Yeah, I would like to add one thing. On Monday night, Donna, you asked about people who would have trouble affording the $60.
Yes.
And that's a good question. I made a couple of inquiries, and it seems that we're not talking about a huge number of people. And my feeling is that rather than try to get some kind of concession from Axiom or have the town involved, I think that can be taken care of with private, what's the word, philanthropy. That something like the Stephen Ross Scholarship Fund, only on I think a smaller scale, because the amount of money is not huge that would be involved to give people broadband at quite a low rate.
Yeah, I did some research too, Michael, and there's also somebody who was listening in the other day did some research, and there's some kind of a federal program too that allows people. It's the same as the telephone. You know how if you're in a certain income area, that that can be the case. And what some towns have done, and Mark Willett can correct me if I'm wrong, but the towns have designated some of the money that they get back from the a business like Axiom or whatever the organization, whatever it might be, into a fund to help with that too. So there's a lot of options out there. And so, you know, I'm not concerned about that now. I think that we can certainly solve that problem going down. We don't need that solved right now.
I would agree.
Thank you. Thank you for doing research too. All right, I'm going to go back to the board. Are there any board members who want to ask a question or make a statement? Okay, I don't see anybody, so I guess I will. Oh, Jay? Yes.
Yeah, I feel like I'm beating the cheval mort, unfortunately. I don't understand why this needs to be town-owned. If in fact Axiom is, as Jim Van Fleet's letter suggested, and has been suggested by the constant, oh, we'll pick that fee up, we'll pick this up, and so forth. If they are in that kind of financial shape, why not they just go out and raise the money themselves? And I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to that, which is they don't have two dimes to rub together. But my question is, why does this have to be done as a town business as opposed to, you know, find 25 or 30 year well-to-do friends and let them put the money up? Why put the town on the line for a system that by the time the bond's paid off, it's going to be 20 years old? We don't know how it will be constructed. We have no guarantees about anything because we have somebody on the other side. You know, whenever you're in business, one of the things you always look at is who's the guy on the other side of the table? You're putting up something. Are they capable of putting up what they're supposed to do? And we don't have that answer. And until we get that kind of, until we find out what the answer to that question is, you know, we're a long way from having this be ready for a town meeting or a warrant item. I think we need a whole lot more information, and we're just not there yet.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone else on the Board of Selectmen? And then Michael, I'll come back to you. Okay, seeing none. Michael?
Yeah. Well, three, four, five things to say to Jay's points. Number one, why does it have to be town owned? Because nobody else is going to do it out here now. Eventually, there will be federal grant money that may, if it all passes in Washington, float down, and eventually some company may run out of places to go and come out here. But right now, we've got too few people and they're too far apart, too spread apart. People are not lining up to come out here and build fiber networks. Axiom is a viable company. Listen to Jim's letter. Their system on the Cranberry Isles is paying the town or whoever it was invested in it back. The system on Cliff Island is paying those guys back. And they've been in business in Machias for quite a long time. If we don't do something now, if we don't have a town meeting and get some kind of bonding authority, we're not going to write a check tomorrow, but we need that authority to get in line for grants. And we can still debate the kind of system we ought to have, but we do need to be able to get in line for a grant, or it's going to be out another few years. And as Lila said, frustrated individuals will solve their own problems, and that'll leave a whole bunch of people out. If you don't do it now, the money's going to go away, and we'll have a system of haves and have-nots, as Lila said.
Michael, I just wanted to ask you a question, then I'm going to go to Bo, and then Richard Hackle. But so when you talking about this and the bond, we're not committing to Axiom in this, are we?
No. What we're asking you to do.
I mean, I think that's a key point. We're not committing. If we have a town meeting, we're just saying we're allocating the money to go toward broadband. Is that right?
Yeah, we're asking for bonding authority, for a capped bonding authority, with the idea that that bond would be used for broadband.
But at some point, the town, who will vote on which company that we hire?
That's a question for you, I think.
I think it's probably I'm going to refer to Justin, then go to the other people. But would that take another town meeting to hire them, or would that be something the Board of Selectmen would be able to do?
Justin, I don't know.
Justin, do you know?
Generally, the Board of Selectmen are entitled to engage in contracts on behalf of the town. That's part of being a municipal officer. What you can't do is you can't indebt the town, and you can't spend money without their approval.
So what the process would be, if this money were allocated, then at some future point, the Board of Selectmen would enter into a contract with some provider.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Okay, Bo and then Richard.
So I want to thank the broadband committee for all the work they've done. I'm kind of leaning towards Jay. I don't know why we have to own the infrastructure. And I understand your point, Michael, what you said and stuff. I kind of understand that, but the 20-year loan is what's bothering me. 20 years ago, it was dial-up was the the end thing. And in 20 years, it's changed a lot. And then another 20 years, it's going to change a lot again. And then the town's going to be responsible for changing all that. With Axiom's not in the saying Axiom, but I'm saying whoever we hire to put the new stuff in, 20 years from now, it's not going to be, it'll be obsolete. I didn't pay Consolidated, or the town didn't pay Consolidated to get the new lines out here. The little bit of I can't remember the name of the wires, but anyway, the new wires that they brought out here, or they renewed, or they relayed all the stuff. Same thing with CMP. The town didn't pay, or isn't paying CMP to upkeep these lines or fix any of these lines. It's their job to do this. And it's paid by the people that have the phones and that use the power. So that's my 5 cents.
Okay, I'm going to go to Richard, and then David, then Jen.
Okay. Yes, I'd just like to mentioned about the town owning the fiber, it does seem like perhaps a different kind of solution, but we would not be the first town that's done that. This is a model that's been repeated many times throughout Maine, small communities in Maine and small communities around the country where the town owns the fiber. And the reason is if you have a good contract like we think we have with Axiom, Axiom is going to maintain the fiber as well as pay the cost of maintaining this fiber. And one of the best reasons for the town to own the fiber, if Axiom ever does fail on their performance, whether it be maintaining the fiber or their rates get too high, we can essentially fire Axiom and get somebody else to run the system. So it gives us the most flexibility to have the best system here. Whereas if another one of the vendors were to install their own fiber and we don't like them, well, we can't do anything about it. We have to just suck it up and pay what they want or deal with their lousy service. But this gives the people that should be the best opportunity to have the best service, have control over the best service. That's it.
Okay, David and then Jen.
There we go. Thank you, Donna. Now, to Bo's point, you're right. That's a major concern, and there are really two answers to that. Number one is that the grant money that's out there from the government, from the state, and everybody else is primarily and maybe it's exclusively going to the municipalities, not to private concerns. So, in order to get that grant money, it's got to be town owned. Now, the second and perhaps more important point is, and this I think is different from a lot of other solutions that are going on around the nation, is that the debt service is going to be paid for by contract by the supplier, not by the taxpayers. So other than the startup costs, what we're talking about is debt service that's being paid by the users. And so, if somebody doesn't want to take the service, that's great. Their taxes are not going to go up to pay for somebody else's service. If you, Bo, want the service, then you will, along with the others who are signed up for the service, you'll be paying the debt service. And that makes it really cost-free to the town, virtually cost-free to the town, and makes it possible for the whole project to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jen?
Would someone from the committee, could they possibly explain the Long Island model and how they're doing things with Consolidated?
I could do that, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I can. That originally on Long Island, and also I suppose if they did it here, originally the town of Long Island was supposed to build the system, basically. But the Consolidated would build and own, well, they'd hire Consolidated to build the system. The town wouldn't actually build it. But the Consolidated would own the drops, the connections to individual customers. Which tells me that they were happy to have the town put the capital up to run the the fiber optic cable around the island, as long as they had a chokehold on it by owning the individual connections. So they could kind of get the worst of both worlds. In the last minute, somewhere, some kind of grant money fell on them, and Consolidated ended up owning the whole works. That's my understanding of what the Long Island situation is. I could be wrong. Kendra Jo has turned up in the chat. Kendra Jo Grindle from the Island Institute, who knows probably more about it than I do.
Okay, can we bring her up? Because, yeah, she's the person who's been working with all these different islands. And that would be great to hear from her because she does have that global perspective. So Kendra Jo?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so similar to what Michael was saying, So Long Island worked with Consolidated. They are the only incumbent on that island. So everyone that has internet service that's not wireless or satellite is Consolidated. They moved forward on a private-public partnership with Consolidated over the last year. They went into state funding with a kind of quasi-municipally owned model. So what happened was Long Island would bond and own the backhaul and the middle mile for their project, and Consolidated would own the drops. So the way I like to think about that is for 20 years, Long Island owns the car and Consolidated owns your steering wheel. At 20 years, after an additional fee on every subscriber per month was given to the town, it's about $20 additional to each subscriber. The bond debt would be paid back with that fee, and the entire system would go to the town. Recently, the Consolidated had a reassessment. Their engineers re-estimated the project, and instead of coming in over $300,000, it came in a little over $75,000 for the town portion. So Consolidated approached the town and said, since it's a small piece, the Consolidated would cover that, but instead of the town eventually owning the system, Consolidated would own it outright. It would be similar to any other Consolidated system. They've already started rolling their trucks. I will just flag, before decisions were even made, Consolidated started rolling their trucks on island and starting to replace copper with fiber and building out their system. So the town is moving forward. They don't really have much of a choice. I know that there is a little concern over no longer having some say in fee rates and tier structure, things like that, but it's just how it's gone about. And for many, they're happy with the way it's turned out. But all along, they knew that they did need to step up and do something financially in order to entice some kind of fiber to the home build in the long run and sustainable infrastructure.
Kendra Jo, do you know how much they're having to pay per household on Long Island for a monthly fee?
I don't off the top of my head. I do have their draft tier structure that Consolidated shared that I can find in my emails and send over. And then that fee that would be seen. So it's Consolidated's normal fee structure. And then the town was going to have an additional, it ranged anywhere between $15 and $20 fee put on to pay back the bond. So that fee will be gone. But I can find those tier rates.
Yeah,
Mark shared it earlier.
I was thinking that Mark Green told me that the basic fee was like $95, but maybe then that changed at the last minute.
Yeah, I'll pull that up and send it over in an email. And they do, where the service that's being proposed, at least in the RFP response from Axiom, a baseline is 50 over 50, which exceeds the unserved standard for Maine and positions you for broadband speeds in the long run. I do know that their base tier was around 25.5 or less. So they were charging, in order to get a lower, like very low rate on the first tier, it was also a very low service in comparison to what we're expecting from providers in the long run. But yeah, I'll pull that up and send it over.
So you're saying that Long Island is, can you repeat what you just said? Because because that sounds like an important point.
Yeah, so what some internet service providers do is, in order to meet communities on a base level cost, almost like a low income cost, but something that's $40 or less, you also have to take that with getting a much slower speeds.
Okay, so
speeds that could even be under 25.3. So you have to compare the price and the speed to what you're seeing from other providers as well. Okay,
so what you're saying is it may be not apples and apples, because we're looking at 50-50. Is that right? For for the lowest grade, and they may be at 25.3. That's
Yeah, so
that's a
I would,
big-
I would just recommend that you compare
Yeah,
similar
Thank you.
speeds to price rates instead of
Yeah.
just the lowest tier.
yep. Thank you. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. That's a very good
Absolutely.
point. Because I would just like to, I haven't really weighed in here, but I'm at the museum, and those of you who have been watching Zoom over time, you know, at my house, half the time I get knocked off. Over here at the museum, I've gotten knocked off. And even though the lighting isn't great, that's nobody's fault, but we now have broadband thanks to recompense and thanks to fundraising that we did here at the museum. And it's a huge difference. I can just tell you. When any of you who have been to our museum and seen those wonderful photographs that we have blown up, we were having to hand carry flash drives into Portland, or the actual photographs, to have those made, because we couldn't upload this, even one photograph, because they were at such high resolution. And now it's not, it's like a game changer. And and I was just thinking, in 20 years from now, I'm going to be 91 based on my genetics. I'm just basing it on my parents and everybody else. So during the next 20 years, I really would like to, at my house, have the same kind of quality that I have here at the museum, because I would like to be able to sit there and be able to participate. And I'm looking at a lot of you because I have such good internet, and I can tell you who doesn't have very good internet at their house. Michael Porter's pretty hazy. Bo, hate to tell you, and Jay, you're shaking. But and David Hills is not very good. Richard Hackle, I don't know what you have, but you've got like the best. You and Gary, I don't know how you get those, but and Jen's pretty good. Mark's not bad, but anyway, I guess my personal feeling is that we're at a point now where we need to let the people of Shebig decide whether they want to go forward or they don't. And I don't feel that it's the responsibility of this board to make a decision about whether we go forward or not. It's our responsibility to move something forward and let the people of Shebig decide. Because if we don't even ask the town administrator to create a warrant, this is dead in the water. And then that means who else is going to pick this up? This will be the second time that this has happened. And I do believe that the people on the island want to have a chance to vote. And they can vote yes or they can vote no, but they will have made the decision. But tonight, 5 of us are going to have the future of the broadband in our hands. And do we want that responsibility, or do we want to give that responsibility to the people of Shebig? And that really is what the question is here tonight. It's not about whether we support Consolidated, Axiom, or John Doe down the street. It's whether or not we want to let the people of Shebig decide, do they want to act on a proposal? That's simple as that. And so that's my comment. Jay.
You said something a few minutes back that has left me quite confused. You said basically what we would be doing is having a town warrant to raise, for lack of a better number, $1 million or slightly less for broadband. And that could be used for anybody. It wasn't picking a vendor. In the meantime, we've heard from Michael, who has very emphatically stated that the only person that we have that would possibly be interested in doing it is Axiom. So, there's a disconnect there. And I think that part of the problem is that we don't have, a full picture. I think the Long Island, what Consolidated worked out on Long Island should be a prospect for us to look at to see if it would work. If they would offer it here, I don't know the answer to those questions. But going ahead and basically just saying, let's authorize $1 million, or ask the folks in town to authorize $1 million, 975,000, Michael's letter. Sorry, I don't want to overstate things. But we need more information. We need a better range of options. And we don't have them. And if we go out and ask for it, we're shortchanging the folks in town by just asking them for money to go ahead, and maybe we'll find something later. And that's
Okay.
my thought.
That's a good point, Jay. And I think that perhaps then, however the warrant article is written, then maybe we need to be specific so people actually know what they're voting on. You know, you've raised a really good point. And if people want to vote on whether they have Axiom or not, let them vote on that. You've made a really good point that we should have something specific. Mark?
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of those points either, Donna. But this warrant article tonight is not, excuse me, this agenda item tonight is not asking us to sign a contract with Axiom. It's not asking us to fund the whole project, own the whole project, and maintain the whole project. Some of those details, if we decide after talking with Axiom more or Consolidated or anybody else more in depth, need to be looked at and tweaked, then so be it. But I think it's important to send this to the people so they can say yes or no, whether they want to really take a solid look at supplying fiber optic internet around this island or not. And don't forget too, if this doesn't get sent tonight by this Board of Selectmen, it may be quote unquote another dead in the water moment, but the people do always have the right to start their own people's citizens initiative petition, which would require a minimum of 30% of the last town meeting vote for signatures to get this onto their own town warrant.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point. And again, I just want to clarify that we're not even voting to have a town meeting. All we're doing is voting to have Justin come up with some language that we can then debate. Because we don't even have the language yet. We have a sample, but we're
Yeah.
asking, that's what we're really asking for. Do we want him to come back to us at the next meeting with final language?
Right, and I'll be quick with my statement. I think it's probably a little foolworthy to hold up this possibility of showing a commitment or a possible serious commitment by this town/community with some grant money heading down the pike from the states or the feds. So that's all I have to say, Donna. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else from the Board of Selectmen who would like to speak? All right, anyone else from the Broadband Committee who would like to speak? Anyone from the public who would like to speak? Okay, I don't see anyone. All right, so I'm going to ask for a motion. There's a sample motion here. If in fact we had a town meeting, it has to be it has to be at least 30 days after the time that you vote on it. So if we voted on it October 20th, we could probably have a town meeting on November 20th, which is a Saturday. So is there someone who would like to make that motion? Mark?
Donna, I'll make a motion to direct the town administrator to prepare a warrant for a special town meeting to be held on a date to be determined in 2021.
And acted upon at the October 20th, 2021 board meeting?
I'm sorry, to be considered and acted upon at the October 20th, 2021 Board of Selectmen meeting, which is coming up.
Yeah, that's the
Thank you.
next meeting. All right, do we have a second? Bo?
I'll second it.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All right, we're going to do a roll call vote. Ms. Beleska,
Yes.
Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Mr. Corson,
No.
Mr. Dyer,
Yes.
and Ms. Damon is yes. Okay, thank you for all the participation, for everybody. Thank you for the broadband committee for the work you've done. And thank you for the public for being here and listening to Democracy at Work. And we'll see what happens at the next meeting. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda. To consider an act on the FY 2023 budget schedule. And what we've done in the past is we kind of have a set list of dates and we usually tweak it. We don't necessarily stick to it because sometimes something happens and the dates don't line up. But this is just to give us some kind of a structure. Last year, Mark Dyer served as the budget chair, and I think he did a great job. So I'm going to move that we approve that the FY 2023 budget schedule presented by the town administrator and appoint Mark Dyer as budget chair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Jay?
On the schedule, while I realize that you said it's quite fungible, last year we were voting on the budget virtually at the absolute deadline. I would like to see us complete. I realize the school budget is a separate topic, but I would like to see us finalize the town side of the budget more in April, early April, as opposed to trying to see how hard we can push it up against the deadlines.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I think what happened last year is that we didn't have all the numbers and we were waiting for something, and that was what held us up. I can't even remember what the issue was. Do you remember, Mark or Christine? Anybody remember? Oh, the school, yeah, the school.
Okay. What I'm saying is our part of the budget we should complete in April.
I think that's a good goal. Let's hope we can do that. That would be wonderful. And we have no control over the school, and it makes it really difficult because we don't know how much the budget's going to be there. So it's really difficult when we're trying to create our capital plan, our capital budget. And so if Justin can talk with Ann and see if there's any possibility that they can try to get something firmed up before the 11th hour, that would be great. Mark?
Justin, do you have any thoughts on Jay's suggestions and comment?
I don't have any concerns. We had a couple of issues last year. It was the schools one, and then the truck problem that we got stuck dealing with that at the last minute, and and trying to determine how much money to take out of the fund balance also was determined quite late because we didn't get the audit on time, which I would assume is going to be a major problem this year because we don't have an auditor.
Oh, yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah, that's certainly a problem. Are there no prospects in line in the future here?
There are none. There were nearly 100 municipalities that were dropped by their auditors this year. The understanding is that the federal requirements that are applied to large municipalities and counties apply to us because of the accounting governing boards. And most of the auditing firms have determined that they're too rigorous and too time consuming, and there's not enough money to be made dealing with small municipalities. So a lot of them have just dropped right out of the municipal auditing. So as you can imagine, if there's 100 municipalities all out there fighting for auditors, we're going to be pretty low on the list because of our size and the amount of money they can make off of us.
Yeah.
And how does that impact us? Oh, sorry, Mark.
That's okay. Go ahead.
How does that impact us if we can't get an audit done by a certain point?
Well, we're required to do one every year. No one's going to come kicking down the door if it's not done timely, but is not good practice to not have your financials done every year timely, because we don't know the status of our fund balance. We don't know, and just for good governance, for you all to see that the funds are in order and that nothing is being done inappropriately, or to find out if certain funds were overspent unknowingly. It's just good to have that independent person come in and look everything over to make sure everything is hunky-dory.
Mark, you had something you wanted to say, and then Bo?
Yeah, very quickly, Justin, remembering that Marjorie had some experience in that area and may have some contacts. Have you spoken with her about this directly?
Yes, and she has called the firms that she used to work for, and they are all in the same boat. They don't have enough staff. There is just a lack of CPAs everywhere anyway. But the plan right now is I'm trying to play off of Marjorie's strengths. We're going to have her. She did all our year-end work. So basically, we're going to be able to pitch to accounting firms as everything settles out. The big towns are going to get theirs first, and we're going to be kind of at the back. So the idea is that we're going to try to pitch that our books are very clean. Someone that is an auditor has done them, and it's going to be very little work. We just need you to look it over and basically sign the management sheet on the front. So that's sort of my plan to pitch, so that maybe we can get somebody in here.
Okay, thank you. And Jen, I'll just let you know that with this budget process, what I usually ask each selectman to do before each meeting, the first one is just goals and budget goals and priority. But when we start digging into specific areas of the operational or the capital improvement budget, I just ask that you go through each division, kind of highlight your questions, concerns, and suggestions if you think something should be changed or lowered, and be as prepared as you can be before each meeting. If you would just think about that, please. Thank you.
Bo,
Thank
you
you.
had your hand up, and then Jen.
I was just wondering if it's not knowing if you could tag along with another town, say Yarmouth or Cumberland or something like that, with their auditor. I don't know if it's been approached that way.
The larger, wealthier towns were kept by their firms. Cumberland is currently managing the town of North Yarmouth while they're searching for a town manager. And Bill Shane called me and asked who we got. And I said, I don't have anybody. So everybody's kind of in the same boat. I would assume that Cumberland, it's a good thought, but I assume that Cumberland probably reached out to their own auditor, who they still have, and asked if they do North Yarmouth, and they most likely, I'm guessing they said no. But that is a good thought. I will. One of my thoughts was to call Long Island. I'm sure they're in the same boat that we are.
Thank you.
Don't have
Thank
an
you.
answer.
Jen?
I just wanted to comment on the part about the school always, being late and holding up the budget process. And having done that for quite a few years, I know that a lot of the numbers don't come in until late. And I do know that the preliminary numbers that we usually were given to the Board of Selectmen in the beginning don't change a lot, if at anything. So I think you need to consider that when you're looking at dates and everything, that they're very good about giving you their preliminary numbers, which usually hold true, and if anything, they go down. So
Thank you. And thank you for that clarification, because what I was thinking about was the mess we got into with the truck. I knew that we were waiting for the school, but the big one was the truck broke down and at the last minute. And that was a huge game changer there. So that's great. We want to all work together, that's for sure. All right. So if no one has anything else to say, can we, I'm going to call for a vote. All right, so Mr. Beaupre,
Yes.
Ms. Beleska,
yes.
Mr. Corson,
Sure.
We're doing yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Mark
Yeah.
and Ms. Damon is yes. Okay, so moving right along, the next item on our agenda is to consider an act on reinstalling road signs. And just to go over this a little bit, wait a second, I've got a background paper here. All right. So just to summarize where we are with the street side issue, we had a public hearing and then we said we would bring it back up in October. And this is what we're doing. The signs were installed without community input. That was one thing during the summer. And folks took to social media debating the issue, and a post wondered how long it would be before they'd be torn down. Then vandals removed the vast majority of the signs, and some were returned to the town office. So that was the background. We held an in-person public hearing because there were a lot of people with opinions on all sides of this. And we had one person who showed up who was in favor of the signs. So then, and Justin can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand, they were installed because, in part, because of comments by an off-season sheriff's, a person from the sheriff's office who couldn't find his way around the island, as well as other people who were new to the island and didn't really know where they were going. So if we have a motion and a second, we can discuss this topic. So is there anyone for discussion's purposes who is willing to make a motion?
I move that we act on reinstalling the road signs.
All right, is there a second for conversation? All right, I'll second it. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. So now we have discussion. So how does the board feel? Jen?
I'm curious to know, are we reinstalling the ones that, just the ones that have been returned or have been found, or are we having more made up? I mean,
That would be what we could decide. I mean, we decide that. I don't know. There's
because I would be in favor of installing the ones that we have, but I wouldn't be in favor of purchasing, a whole new slew of them.
So Justin, how many would we need to buy if we were replacing the ones you didn't get back?
Most of them.
Oh, most of them you didn't get back?
No.
Okay.
We only got back the ones that of the individuals who were caught taking them. The rest of them, we don't know who took them and they didn't bring them back.
Okay. Bo?
What was the individual cost for the signs? Offhand, I'm holding you to a direct figure.
I think the signs themselves that have the which isn't the brackets and the poles. I think the signs are, I'm guessing here, but I think they're like $25 for the green part. And then the brackets and the poles are all ads.
And do we still have the poles, or did they steal the poles too?
They, most of them, they took the poles and the brackets and all of it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to weigh in here because I think that this is more of an issue than just street signs. I think that by just ignoring this, that we as a Board of Selectmen are really saying that it's okay to destroy public property. And my gut feeling is that if we put them back up, that this will not happen again. And maybe we start out with however many we've got or whatever. And but I just don't think that people should get away with being able to vandalize. I mean, this is not, it wasn't billions of dollars, but it's no different than these people who go in and vandalize cemeteries, who go in and throw rocks in windows if they don't like the people or whatever. And I think we're giving the wrong message to the community. So that's my personal opinion. Anybody, Bo?
Hi,
You're frozen. If you had a better internet, we'd be able to hear you and see you.
I'm in the same view. I'm in the same view as you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, I can now. Yep. You froze when you raised your hand.
So my point, we should put up the signs to at least the public roads. And then if they're private roads, we should at least get some for the ones that aren't there. But I remember like O'Neill Road's got one, Haskell Drive's got one. They're just little signs that would identify their driveway or road, I mean, or private road. Like that would be their responsibility to either get one or get one of the green signs from the town.
Okay, so that's something in addition to what we're talking about right now. We were talking about just reinstalling the main roads where they were put up in the first place. Because that wasn't even all the town roads. So, but I think you've got a good point that if people want one on a private road, they could certainly buy one from the town. That's, down the road, that might be an idea. Jay?
I just, thinking back when we first talked about this, 4 or 5 people that do deliveries on the island, all of whom live here and have lived here for many, many years, all suggested to me that it was really nice to have the signs because they couldn't necessarily remember every last little road. And it just made their lives a lot easier in terms of delivering things. And since we have so few packages these days coming to the island, maybe it doesn't make any difference.
No, I had that same input from people. In fact, I had people during the summer calling me and asking me where roads were because they didn't know and trying to track people down. Anyone else on the board want to weigh in on this before I open it up to the public? No, Mark?
I guess I'm almost with Jen's position, but I'm not even quite there. I think we should have talked about this a little more before they went up. I think I said that at one point. That doesn't really matter at this point. I guess it's okay if we spend a little bit of money and put a few signs back. I just hope we don't spend a lot of time and money and effort doing this, because as far as I'm concerned, we have a lot of drainage and road work and float repairs and stuff that we need to stay on top of for public access and infrastructure maintenance and improvements. I don't want to see us wasting too much time putting up street signs and then driving across small places in the road that are broken apart and forgetting to, finish ditching and not pay attention to our float and ramp infrastructure and stuff. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else before I go to the people? Okay, so are there any of the attendees who have any comments or questions? Jackie, Galaxy 50 S7 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Jackie Trask.
Thank
She's down
you.
from outer space.
I wondered if Justin recalls how many stop signs were, put up, new stop signs at the same time as the street signs.
Do not recall because they shouldn't have been put up. So I don't know how many were put up. I don't have the authority to put those up. Only the board can put up traffic control signs. So the ones that were put up were taken down. And I don't know how many there were. I don't recall.
So it was a sort of a mistake that the stop signs were put up, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so what he's saying is that this board, and if people want a stop sign, they can, ask us to put it on an agenda, but we have to be the ones who decide it. Justin can't do that unilaterally.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome. Beverly.
I thought seeing the street signs was great. I was shocked that people were so against them. I thought they were terrific. And I'm very pleased to see them up. And I agree with you, Donna, that we need to go ahead and put them back up. It's not something that we should just accept and let go. And I think it's important for the community to have signs for our young people to know what the roads are when they're riding their bicycles down and don't know the roads. There's a lot of people that don't really know the names of the roads, and I think it's a good thing myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Anyone else here who would like to weigh in one way or the other? All right, I see no hands going up. Oh, I see one. Did somebody just put it up? I thought it said an attendee. No, I don't see it. Justin, do you see a hand? It says one or
Nope.
two.
Now there's two.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with Vale and then go to Donna Colbeth.
I agree with you, Beverly, and you, Donna. I think that people should know that they shouldn't take signs down, where they may like them, but I must say, you know, having been here all my life, which is almost 88 years, I used to know the low road, the back road, and the main road. So it's been kind of interesting to find all the other names of roads. But I think it isn't even that. It's the fact that they dared to take down the signs that you put up. I don't know why you couldn't have found out who did it, and perhaps they should contribute to the cost of putting up the signs again, to the money to buy new signs for the ones that weren't returned. I just think that's so disgusting and so sad that we have kids doing that kind, or maybe it wasn't just kids, maybe there were adults in there too. So anyway, I agree with you, Donna.
Thank you. Donna
That's
Colbeth.
it.
Thanks, Phil. Donna Colbeth. You're on, Donna. Unmute. Can you unmute, Donna? There you
Unmute.
go. You're all set.
Okay, the day after the signs all came down, I did talk to Justin and I said that I gave him a citizen's apology. I was sort of embarrassed by it, but what I'd like to know is, how do you think this is not going to happen again? Are you really thinking it's not going to happen again? And what do you do to prevent that? Or if it does happen again, to address it?
Okay, I'll tell you, I'll weigh on that one because we dealt with this issue at Chandler's Cove. And all of you remember that, Sanford gave the town a really good deal to own 10 acres at Chandler's Cove for $50,000. And he took pride in that place and he would go over and clean it up. And some days I would go down there on a Sunday and he had over 200 beer cans and he did not even believe in drinking. And he was horrified at how people abused that property that he had meant so much to him. And we worked with the town of Cumberland after we got through the point where there were people on Shabig saying, oh, and it was the fire department who was saying that they like to know where the kids were because if there was a fire, they knew where they'd be. And so we worked with the town of Cumberland. And when Bill Shane came in and he went down there and sent bulldozers and all that stuff, they leveled things out, they fixed it up, they put rocks up and made it look like a park. And put in, and before that, they'd put in the steps and all that. And what they started doing was actually enforcing it. And they stopped giving fire permits. The town was giving fire permits to people to get down there and build fires. And the town became serious. And since we became a town, it's the same thing has happened. Anytime anybody goes down there and finds that somebody's lit a fire in the field, it's cleaned up immediately. And it's been several years since I've seen anything down there. It took time. But if people know that people are serious, I was up at the town, at the Stone Wharf the other day, looking at the bicycle rack. And I remember when we wanted to put the bicycle rack, and one of our public services employees who doesn't work here anymore, but he said, oh, I'll give that 5 minutes before somebody throws it overboard. Well, it was never thrown overboard. And we've got to break that vigilante, boys will be boys, girls will be girls attitude. And the only way we can do it is to continually, so it may cost us $500 to keep replacing signs, but when people know by peer pressure, they're going to say, okay. And a lot of that talk on Facebook was adults, not kids. And they said things like I quoted, how long will it be before somebody tears it down? We've got to change that culture in this community. That's just my personal opinion. I'm speaking as a citizen, not as the chairman. But so I do think that if you continue to put something back, that eventually people will get the message. All right. So do we have any more comments? All right, seeing none. Let's, anybody on the board, this is the last shot at this, okay? Let's have a vote. So the motion is to have the town crew reinstall road signs that were removed by vandals. Bo,
Yes.
okay. Jen,
No.
Jay,
Yes, but not go crazy.
okay. Mark,
No.
okay. So it's passed 3-2. And so as Jay says, we don't want to go crazy. All we're talking about is at least getting us back to the status quo until we can have a budget season and see what happens in between. But if any of you, out in the public, I hope that you will try to encourage people that if they have a problem with something, to come to a meeting. Don't go and just destroy property. Thank you. All right, so now going on to the next item is communications. I have two. One is from, I think we've talked about several of these other ones already tonight, but the two that we haven't talked about is there's going to be an MMA free housing forum on October 14th via Zoom that's going to have people representing housing and various departments in the in the state. And my suggestion is that by consensus, that we ask Justin to go on behalf of the town of Shebig just to find out what the story is with that, if he doesn't mind. Is there anyone who has any issue, anybody who thinks that's not a good idea? Or by consensus, can we just move forward? Any thoughts, Mark?
Could you tell me what it is one more time, please?
Sure. I will read the course information. It says, Maine's housing crunch is affecting communities across the state. The arrival of the American Rescue Plan Act, which is ARPA funds, is an opportunity for municipalities, counties, and regions to proactively address housing-related issues in their community. This timely forum brings together experts from the public and private sectors to dive into the diverse world of housing planning, development, financing, and advocacy. Join us for a series of presentations and a period of Q&A. This is a great opportunity to hear from Maine's leaders on how to begin addressing housing concerns in our communities. And Justin kind of alluded to the fact that Cumberland County has a lot of money. And so from this, and so my feeling is, and I'm going to bring something up in a minute under the next agenda, but this is a huge issue. I've had many people contacting me in the last few weeks about the issue of housing on Shebig. And so it's not going to cost us anything. And all he has to do is sit in a chair and soak it in. So that my feeling is that, and it's the 14th, so we can't put it as an agenda item. Mark.
I certainly don't mind if Justin wants to go to that meeting. It might have some value. But I'm hoping at some point, maybe it's going to be when the facilities committee finishes up with their assessment and suggestions / recommendations of the existing public safety / town office building. I'm hoping that this town and this community and the planning board has some discussions about town-owned property and whether some of it could be considered for that type of valued use.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. In a minute, I'm going to be talking about something that's along that line. Anyone else have a comment about is there anybody who disagrees? Okay, Jay?
I don't disagree. The only, before you go, Justin, take a look at the topics and see if they are appropriate to the island. I mean, if they're talking about how to finance big apartment buildings and a variety of other things that are more urban centric, then you'd probably be wasting your time. You know, if there's stuff that's applicable to the island, terrific, on the agenda. But otherwise, you know, it may not be worth your time.
One of the things I thought was really optimistic is that one of the people who's on this panel is Hannah Pingree, who you'll remember when she was Speaker of the House. She got an initiative through that qualified Main Islands for housing money, which helped to build those 2 units on Schoolhouse Road. So I'm hoping, having her there, that there will be something that is pertinent to islands, but I have no idea. This just came in the, in the email. So, all right. Is there anyone who's opposed to this? Okay, moving on. Thank you. The other came from Pam Smith, and she sent me a copy of the North Yarmouth Senior Property Tax Assistance Program application. And we've talked about this in general terms in the past, and I know Cumberland has a similar one. And so I just didn't want it to fall by the wayside because it's something we might talk about during the budget period. I don't know if we have to change any ordinances in order to do this, but I'm just throwing it out there so we don't lose the idea that, and this is to help people who are of a certain income level who are having trouble paying their taxes. So that's just, those are my only correspondence. Anyone else have any correspondence?
Didn't you mention something about a letter from Aaron Julian?
I did, but we already talked about that. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Okay, I've got to dig back in the broadband stuff. Hold on just a sec, because it's right here. Okay, it was right here. All right, I can, wait a second, I'll just go in my email, I can find it. Okay, so just take a second. Okay, it says, "Hi, Michael. I'm writing to let you know that I'm resigning from the Broadband Committee. I believe the robust and affordable broadband service is critical for Shebig. Yet our process has eliminated an important option from the mix for the town to consider. The Board of Selectmen should have been better informed about the circumstances regarding the RFP process. I am not comfortable with the manner in which the committee has conducted the RFP. I am also disappointed that you didn't follow through on your promise to inform the Board of Selectmen of the situation at their September 22nd, 2021 meeting. This puts me in an awkward position. I don't believe that the Board of Selectmen has been adequately kept in the loop on important issues regarding the RFP process. And I don't believe the Broadband Committee's public hearing materials convey a complete picture of how the bidding process went awry with Consolidated. It may be that Axiom is the best choice, but the process meant that the town didn't have a chance to consider an important possible option. I've attached a document outlining the circumstances that I expected you to run by the Board of Selectmen at the September 22nd meeting, and have also attached the reference documents. I'm out of town for a few days, so I won't be attending either meeting. Just to let you know, I forwarded that to the town deputy clerk, so that should be in the, it'll be in the minutes from this meeting, or in the whatever documents they keep. All right, anyone else have something else that they would like, Jen, for communication?
I wondered if Justin was going to, or you, about the letter from, or the email from Jeff Nevins that we got late today. That seems like that's all part of the same process.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig this stuff up here. I would have read that. I thought we talked a little bit about it in the thing, but we did get something from Jeff Nevins, and it says, Mr. Poria, we were made aware that the town is progressing with the evaluation of the RFPs to upgrade broadband availability on Shebig Island. After discussions here at Consolidated, I was asked to reach out to you. When the deadline to respond to the RFP was extended, CCI, what's that, Consolidated Communications, got the original information about the adjusted timeline. See September 10th, see attached. But this date on our engineering, and put this date on the engineering work schedule. As it turned out, the deadline was subsequently changed to August 10th, but CCI does not have a record of receiving the second notification and therefore missed the deadline to respond. CCI did have some concerns about how the RFP was designed and the requirement for the proposal to create an entirely municipally owned network to be operated by a contracted partner. At the time, we asked if the town was open to consider alternative approaches to the ownership model, and we were told the town was clear in its desire. As the review process proceeds, CCI wanted you to know that we would be interested in putting together a project proposal without the open access requirement, should the town reach a point where it was open to considering alternative approaches. As you may be aware, CCI has recently upgraded undersea cable to the island and could be leveraged in our proposal. We understand this may be a moot point based on where you are in the decision-making process. However, we want the town to be aware of your continued interest. Anyone else have any more correspondence? Chris.
Hi, Donna. Just to know, as of today, I had not received anything regarding Aaron Julian or Jeff Nevins.
Oh, I think Justin has it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get it from Justin. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Chris, the Jeff Nevins thing came, I just forwarded it to the board about 3:45, so it's probably in your inbox now, that when you get to the office. The other one I will send to you. If I could, Donna, may I just speak to the Jeff Nevins, just so you know how I responded to that?
Yeah.
Because all I said was, there has been no decision made on a vendor or any of that nature, and that ultimately the decision about borrowing and all that will be left to town meeting, and the board will decide sometime after that. And I encouraged Jeff to submit whatever his company wanted us to see, and that it would be accepted and looked at along with everything else. So I did tell him that in my response.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much, Justin, for taking that initiative. All right, now I've totally lost where I am. All right, so no one has any more communication? All right, so now the next thing that we have is minutes, I believe. Yes, to approve the minutes from September 22nd, 2021. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Jen?
I just wanted to include in the third, number 3, under the workshop bullets, if we could include that the Board of Selectmen encourage the code enforcement officer to follow up with current written complaints from taxpayers and the planning board.
Okay. Is there a friendly, somebody going to accept that as a friendly amendment? Bo and Mark, you okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay. Did you get that, Chris? Okay, because Jen could send it to you. Anything else on those minutes? Anybody wants to talk about? Okay, so we'll have to do another roll call. Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Ms. Beleska? Jen, we didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Bo?
Yes.
Mr. Dyer?
Yes.
And Ms. Damon is yes, so it's unanimous. Okay, so the next thing that we have here is some thoughts about future agenda items. And so I alluded to this earlier, that I've had several people in the community who have reached out to me and about housing concerns on the island, and concerned about, there are people looking for houses. They're worried about people, the school not having its, a really robust population. So there's a lot of issues. And so I contacted the Island Institute, and they're willing to help us facilitate 3 community meetings over the next 3 months. The purpose of the meetings would be to identify, number 1, to identify issues related to the lack of housing and brainstorm possible solutions. That would be really an open, these would be on Zoom, and it would be, no bad ideas would be, all ideas are good. The second meeting, the idea would be to hear what's happening or has happened on other islands, pros and cons. The idea would be, for example, we might get Debbie Hamlin from Islesboro, who put together a project a few years ago, or somebody from Frenchboro, as many people as we can, to hear what other people have done. And then, the pros and cons, if they had it to do over again, would Frenchboro advertise all over the country and get cowboys from Wyoming showing up there out in the guts of the ocean in Frenchboro with 1 ferry a week or whatever it is? And they were shocked because there was no cattle to work with. So, that might be something they would say. But anyway, and then the third meeting would be, what would some next steps be? And hopefully out of that, there might be, I don't know what the outcome would be out of the third meeting, but I think that we need to start someplace. And so eventually the town will most likely be part of any solution that we have, because the town can apply for grants and the town has land. So I hope by consensus that this board would support moving forward with this idea of trying to have some of these community discussions. And the town isn't committing to any financial investment or property transfer or anything else. There'll be more information on the agenda of October 20th if you're interested in doing this. And in order to get a notice in the calendar, we need to decide tonight if the town wants to be a partner in these preliminary discussions. And that would be as simple as using the town Zoom account. So I'm just opening that up to the board to see if they think this is something that would be worth the effort. It's not going to take Justin's time initially. It's not going to take your time. But I hope you would all attend and participate. Any thoughts? Bo?
I think it's something the town needs.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
I also think it's a good idea, Donna. I'm just not positive of my time availability along with the other selectmen's meetings about when these are gonna happen, that's all.
Yeah. No, and if people can't make them, that's one that, it's no obligation. It's not a selectmen's meeting. That it wouldn't be a selectmen's meeting. It would be a community meeting sponsored by the town, encouraging citizens to get together and hash over a topic. Anyone else have any thoughts? Justin?
Just make sure that there's only 2 of you that attend at the same time.
Okay, so then we would.
Because if 3 of you are in the same room, it constitutes a Board of Selectmen meeting and we need to post it. So if
Okay.
more of you want to come, that's okay. We just have to let Chris
Yep.
know so that she can post that as a meeting.
All right, we'll do that. Yeah, that's good point. Thank you. Jay?
My question here is, Justin, if there's a meeting which is not a board meeting and 3 of us show up because we're interested in the topic, for instance, if any of these DMR meetings, if 3 of us show up, that doesn't have to be posted as a Board of Selectmen meeting.
It should be if you are going to be speaking about an issue that affects the town, it should be posted if there's going to be 3 of you there. Now, the difference would be if you are all, if you all showed up at the inn or something for a drink in the evening and you're just casually saying hello and walking by, it's going to be hard for someone to say that you were meeting. But if you're in a meeting where there's some official function going on and there's going to be more than 2 of you there, we really should post that meeting as a public meeting, because you 3 can make decisions on town business when there's 3 of you in a room. So it really should be posted that way.
So any meeting that the town holds where 3 of us may be interested in the topic has to, by definition, be a Board of Selectmen meeting posted?
It should be posted so that the public knows that the majority of you are going to be in attendance. Yes.
It sounds like we've pushed that a little hard, but anyway.
But we can do that. That's not, what we can do is we can figure out the wording for that. We just need to have the okay so we can get it in the calendar. But thank you, Justin, for bringing that up. All right, is there anyone who's opposed to us going forward with this? Okay, great. Anyone in the audience have any comments, any ideas, think we should go forward, not go forward? I don't see any hands up, so I'm assuming that everybody thinks that we should go forward because this is your chance to say no. Okay, great. Moving forward. So the next thing that I had that's coming up at some point is the annual TA evaluation. Just so that we don't forget about it, which we kind of did before for the 6 month. So Justin, put that on your schedule so that we remember to do that. And we probably need to decide at a future meeting, not only when it will take place, but do we want to use the same process that we used before? So be thinking about that. And maybe we'll have it on the next agenda. It shouldn't be a big item that's going to take long. Just what our process is going to be in setting a date. Okay, I just don't want it to get lost because it came into my head today. Okay, so number 3. Oh, one of the things that we've talked about in the past and we have been remiss is talking about scheduling meetings with town committees. We've had a few who have volunteered and contacted us and wanted to be on the agenda. But I'm just thinking that maybe what we should do, and if Justin has time or maybe one of the people in the office could come up with a tentative schedule for the next meeting of when we could invite different committees to come and communicate with us. Because I think that that's another thing that can go by the wayside. And I think if we touch base, at least we have a better handle so people don't put a lot of good work into something and then find out nobody's supporting it or vice versa. So everybody okay with that idea that he'll come up with some kind of a schedule with the committees? And we'll do one meeting or, one or two, depending if it's a heavy meeting. All right, moving on. CTC, and this could have been in correspondence, or it could be under new agenda items. But CTC reached out, and they are interested in talking with the town at a meeting about the construction of a small waiting room to be erected on the stone wharf near the bike rack that would be movable, so that no matter what we're doing there, it could be moved and then replaced or whatever. They're talking about something about 10 by 10, just so that people who are waiting to get on the boat have a place to get in out of the cold or the sun, depending on how it is, or and it could take the place of the harbor master shed that we used to have. So that was something they would like to be on the agenda for. Bo?
I don't, what's the sense of having them get in a group in the cover that's 10 by 10 or get undercover on the boat?
It has to do with
Well,
whether.
we'll have a discussion about it. I just thought.
Okay, so you'll have plenty of time. I'm not gonna this isn't the debate time, but
Exactly.
But so that's just something that's coming up that I'm not sure will be on the next agenda. It depends on how much stuff we have, but it could be on the next agenda. All right, another one I've got is other issues about the backhoe. Will we need to be thinking about what to do about the backhoe, or is that really for next year's budget discussion?
I guess the question is going to be for me to bring information, or maybe a little more information than what I shared, answering some of Jen's questions about, whether it's necessary to have a second backhoe on the island for the winter, which would probably require some type of a rental agreement or something like that, because we're not going to, short of having a special town meeting, we won't be able to fix that other one. So it's just going to be a decision about whether you want to fix it or raise the money to fix it at the special town meeting, or whether you want to defer it through the budget process. And then therefore there may be a question about whether you think it's necessary to rent something over the winter.
Okay.
So it's something I could put in my TA report, or I could bring you an action item as soon as I can figure it out myself.
I think we do, I think we definitely need a backhoe. I know at the top of my road that's how they clean out the top of the road, as with the backhoe. And I don't know if there are other roads where they do that, but after it's a mess up there. Yeah, Mark?
I think Justin's point is do we need a second backhoe? And if so, do we need it over the winter season?
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I think what he was saying is having a backup in case the first one broke or something. Yeah, but probably one backhoe is probably would work. But okay, so Justin, we'll figure that out for the next agenda. All right, so do any of the rest of you have any things that you'd like to add to the next agenda or future agenda? Bo? Bo, you're frozen. You
His
need
hand's
that
still
new
up.
internet. Oh, you're so frozen. I wish I could thaw you out. If you can hear me, yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Take off your video. Can you hear me now? Bo? Okay, Bo, as soon as you come back in, we'll be happy to hear what you have to say. Anybody else have something they think needs to come to be on the agenda in a future agenda, the next few little bits? Okay. All right, I think, well, Jen?
Are we going to discuss about whether or not we will have a meeting by Zoom or whether it will be in person next time?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Why don't we can talk about that right now? What do people want to do? I mean, as the last I had to make the decision last Tuesday, and Justin had been exposed and I was going away, and it just seemed that it was easier to post it this way, and then instead of having to try to change it if something came up. It's how comfortable do people feel? And if we meet at the hall, will we require masks? Those are the two issues. Mark?
Does the hall building or committee have any sort of position or restrictions?
They have put in a HIPAA, HERP, what do you call it? Oh my God. HEPA, yeah, a HEPA system, and I don't know if it's already installed yet, but I knew they were in the process because we contacted Royal River over here at the museum and found out we don't have an air exchangers, we have air handlers, and that's what they have too. I have circulators. So all that's happening is the same old air is circulating. So they've put in, because they don't want the windows open, so they've put in this new thing. But it takes a half an hour for it to go through. Royal River suggested over here at the museum, if we have X number of people, that we should keep the doors and windows open. But the hall is not interested in keeping the windows open. So it's up to the board. What do you want to do? Oh, Bo's back too. Bo, right now we're talking about whether we're going to be live or whether we're going to be on Zoom on the 20th. And we all know that something could change one way or the other, but so that's the discussion right now. So how do
Well, you know my vote on that.
you want to be on Zoom? Okay, I'll write that down.
Yeah, so I was going to bring that up. That was one of my things, but the other one was Ralph.
Can we just stick with this just to get it finished, and then we'll come back to your other thing? Okay,
Yep.
Is there anybody who wants to definitely be on Zoom, or is everybody okay? Go, Jay?
Why don't we find out if the rec center, if we can hold the meeting up there where there's a whole lot more room and we can spread out a whole lot better if we're going to do it in person. But I would think that as long as we continue to have this significant increase in daily caseloads, that maybe we ought to do the next meeting or two on Zoom, and then hopefully as that number of new incidents goes down, we can get back to doing it in person, which I'd much rather do, but I'd also prefer not to have the exposure.
Okay, and I think that, I mean, that is a serious consideration because right now we had a good turnout at this meeting, and if people are hesitant to come to a in-person meeting, we're going to have less participation. So I don't know. Jen?
We've had several of the school committee meetings where last year at the rec center. And I will say that the acoustics are really horrible, and it's very, very difficult to hear when you have a mask on in the gym. So just throw that out there as a consideration.
Yeah, no, the acoustics, you are 100% right. They are terrible there. So, Mark?
I think we should just do the next meeting on Zoom like Jay suggests and then see where we are.
Okay, you okay with that, Bo, one more time?
Yeah, it's fine.
Bo, you are so easygoing. Your wife is so lucky.
Oh, you can come over and use my front room.
Yeah, okay.
I've got 1.6 and 5. So we've got scads of internet.
Or you can come here to the museum and we have even better than Jay, so.
Mine says I got a strong signal.
Okay, good. We can see you. All right, so the consensus, I guess, right now is that next meeting on the 20th will be on Zoom, and then we'll go from there. I think meeting by meeting. Is that okay, Jen? Does that make sense? Okay, so Bo, we've been waiting to hear what you had to say.
So I want to bring up Ralph's concern that he had. Either get some kind of number or get some kind of I don't want this falling through the cracks and then, we get hit with no coverage.
I know, I asked before, like a month ago, for him to come up with a proposal so we could have something to act on. And he didn't have anything specific, just general that there was a problem. So Justin, have you heard any more from Ralph about that?
He asked me last week if I could meet with him one day. It was either Thursday or Friday last week, and I couldn't that day. And we were supposed to meet Monday or Tuesday of this week, and that didn't happen. So he did reach out to me, but we just haven't connected
Okay,
yet.
great. All right, so it hasn't, if you can get some kind of a specific proposal from Ralph, we'll definitely put that on the agenda. Thank you for bringing it up, Bo. And Justin, thanks for following up on it. Anyone else? Mark?
And what will that be?
What?
What?
Oh, you weren't at the last
specifically
meeting.
will the
Ralph
proposal be?
Ralph came, and your internet's bad now too. You need new internet. But anyway, Ralph came to the last meeting because he's concerned that if the governor requires people to get a third shot, that he has people on his roster who will probably not get a third shot, and he would be shorthanded. So he was alerting us to that and telling us that we might need to do something, but we need a specific proposal to know what it is we have to do. And so that was my point. We can't really sit around and talk about it. We did a little bit of brainstorming, but we need him to say, I need such and such, and then we can act on it, yes or no.
So it might be a proposal for manpower or labor costs?
Yeah, something. I don't know if
Okay.
it's a carrier. I don't know if it's an EMT.
Yeah.
I don't know what the
No.
issue is. It's not.
Yeah, no, I was just clarifying whether it was that or
Yeah.
some sort of building addition. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's not a fire truck and it's not a building addition. It's manpower. Thank you. Justin, you've got your hand up.
No, I was just going to say there's a statewide issue with per diem firefighters and full-time firefighters. Some of it's due to the vaccine, but some of it is just the fact that people aren't getting into this type of work anymore. And he's concerned that if we're not sort of prepared for it and one or two of the paramedics, for whatever reason, either they leave or they don't want to get a shot or whatever, that if we only lose one, then there's going to be shifts where no one can answer the call. So he's trying to prepare for that situation. And I think what we're talking about potentially is expanding the per diem offering that we did over the summertime, just to give you a quick down and dirty, but I don't have the details of what he's looking for at this point.
Okay. Does that help, Mark?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay.
I'd like to request that we move the meeting along a little quicker.
Okay, anybody else have anything else that they would like to have on a future agenda? All right, seeing none, let's adjourn, but I guess we don't even need to do a roll call to adjourn, right? We have a motion to adjourn. If somebody has a motion to adjourn and seconded, you
What
can just.
about the executive session?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We can't adjourn until after we do that. Okay, so we can adjourn from, what we can do is move to go into executive session. Thank you, Bo. Bo, you're going to be a great chairman next year. You keep everybody on their toes. Mark.
Donna, could I please make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA 4056C to talk about real estate?
Is there a second?
Second.
Now we'll do a quick roll call. Jen?
Yes.
Bo?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Donna's yes. So thank you all who came here tonight, and we hope you tune in on the 20th and be safe and be well. So we need to have you all sign out now so that we can go into executive session.
to